Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I want to talk to you about some tips. I want to talk to you about my 10 tips for going to any Epcot festival. So we're gonna get started right now. Okay, so let's get started. So tip number one, and I can't stress this enough, if you've ever been to Flower and Garden, Festival of the Arts, Festival of the Holidays, at Christmas time, Food and Wine, it's busy. It's always busy. And parking can kind of be a bit of an issue. So what I have found is that if it's a weekend, or if it's a holiday, what I like to do is I like to go to Magic Kingdom. I park at Magic Kingdom. I go to the Ticket and Transportation Center, which is where you get the monorails, and then I take the monorail over to Epcot. Now, why do I do this? One, for sanity. Two, I find that it's a little less chaotic. Yes, you have to go through security twice, because you're gonna have to go through security at Magic Kingdom, and then you gotta go through security again at Epcot. But here's the kicker. I don't have to fight for a parking space typically, and I'm not going to be in those super long lines. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes it could be busy at Magic Kingdom as well, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. So yeah, if it's going to be a busy day, park at Magic Kingdom. All right, so number two, make sure you make a budget. It's so easy when you go to one of the festivals and you just hit booth after booth after booth, and next thing you know, you've spent like $200. Trust me, it's easy to do. And Loki's over here. I don't know if you can see her. There she is. Anyways, like I said, make sure you make a budget. So like for me, what I like to do is I usually give myself about $125. I put it on one of those gift cards that goes around your wrist, and I stick to that for that day. Now sometimes it lasts me a couple trips. Sometimes I spend it all in one trip. It just depends. So if you don't make a budget for yourself before you go in, you may find that you're spending a lot more money than you thought you would. And it just kind of helps keep me on track. The other good thing about doing one of the wristband gift cards is you don't have to keep pulling your wallet out to charge your credit card every time. So it definitely simplifies things for you. All right, guys, so tip number three, plan your first stops around your fast passes if you're gonna go ride some rides. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you have a fast pass for Soarin' at 9 o'clock, then you have Test Track at like 10:30, and maybe you don't have your third one until like noon or 1 o'clock, and maybe you snacked Frozen, or maybe you're gonna go back on Soarin' or Mission Space. Try and keep the booths that you go to the front. So that front area when you first walk into World Showcase, try and stick to booths right there so you don't have to walk all the way out, all the way back in, all the way back out, because you're gonna do a lot of walking anyways. And yeah, just save yourself a little bit of steps and book your fast passes either around the booths that you want to go to, and usually the Walt Disney World website posts all of the food at the booths on their website, so you can kind of pre-plan, or check out some vlogs and see where everybody's saying like you should try, and then try and plan either your fast passes for first thing in the morning, so then when World Showcase opens at 11, you've got your rides out of the way. At least that's what I try to do if I'm going to ride rides and do the festival. You can do both, folks. You can. All right, guys, so tip number four is really honestly mostly for pass holders. If you're a pass holder, make sure you stop in to wherever the location is that you pick up your magnets, because there's always magnets for the festivals. There's always some type of pass holder goodie that they have for us, so make sure you stop in and pick up whatever free gifts that they're giving out to pass holders. I realize if you're not a pass holder, this doesn't really apply to you. So anyways, tip number five, and I can't stress tip number five enough. Someone who as me, I'm someone who's a native from Florida. I was born here, I grew up here. Granted, I've lived in other cities across the country, but even I suffer with this sometimes, is staying hydrated and cool. If you're coming to Flower and Garden, it's a little bit cooler when the festival starts, but once you start rolling into April, May, June even, it is hot here. It is so, so hot. If you're going to Food and Wine, it's the fall, but our fall here in Florida doesn't really happen. It doesn't really start to cool off until about November or December. The other thing is make sure you keep drinking water, because staying hydrated and finding shaded spots is a huge thing. World Showcase, for the most part, you can kind of deviate. You could go to a booth, go into the country, go to a booth and go into the country, and kind of exit and go to like the air conditioning and then come back out. But you really have to make sure, especially if you're gonna drink and drink around the world, and this applies to any time you're at Epcot or anywhere at Disney and you're drinking in the heat, make sure you drink plenty of water. Water is free from every quick service place. You just have to go up and ask for it. Don't waste your money on bottled water, but that's another tip for another day. All right, number six. Number six is to pace yourself. So what do I mean by pace yourself? Pace yourself because although they're tiny little like tapas, like appetizer size, and even like splitting it with somebody, I realized the last few festivals that I've gone to, usually about 5 or 6 booths and I'm done. Like I'm full, I'm stuffed, and I can't keep going. So that was my upstairs neighbors. They're banging around up there. So anyways, like I was saying, pace yourself, because you don't want to like eat too much or drink too much and then start to feel sick, especially in the heat. Again, going back to before, staying hydrated. You don't want to like overfill yourself and like just be sick. Because believe it or not, that's really easy to do. So anyways, like I said, pace yourself. For like the 10th time, number 7. All right, so tip number 7 is do the scavenger hunts. They're really fun. I did the one for the Festival of the Arts, or no, not Festival of the Arts, Festival of the Holidays, and it was Chippendale's Reef Adventure, and you had to go all around World Showcase and find where they had hidden the Christmas wreaths. And it was a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be, especially since 1, we did it in the dark, and 2, they weren't really, like, I thought they would have like Christmas decorations and there would be the Chippendale, but no, they were just kind of like obscure and like put in certain areas. So that was interesting, but they're really cheap to do. Once you finish, you get a cool little prize, and it's a way that the whole family can kind of get involved as you're going around, especially if you have adults and kids and the adults are drinking and eating and the kids are just like, I don't really care. But it's a way to get your kids involved at every stop along the way. So think about doing the scavenger hunts, because me personally, I love them. All right, so tip number 8. Tip number 8 is to check out the shows, the concerts, the classes. One of the really cool things about going to the festivals is they usually have some type of cooking class that you can do. Yes, there's an upcharge, but it's really fun. You learn new tips and tricks. They usually have shows and concerts that are free, so it's included with your admission to the park. A lot of times they have some really cool bands. I know last year for Food and Wine they had 98 Degrees. I know maybe it's not everybody's cup of tea. They had Postmodern Jukebox. I know for Flower and Garden they had like Stephen Curtis Chapman and a couple other Christian bands that I know from like way back in the day. Smash Mouth is one that comes a lot. Yeah, so check out the concerts. They're free, like I said. Sometimes you have to get there a little early because if it's somebody really popular, it could be a busy show, but they do multiple shows throughout the day. So make sure you check online again, like I said, for the concerts. Just like they do the food booths, Disney will release like when the concerts are and what time, so that way you can plan your trip around them if you're coming in from out of town, or if you're local, you know what time you need to leave so you don't get stuck in Orlando traffic, which is a pain. But anywho, so that brings me to tip number 9. Tip number 9 is if you are a local or you are someone who makes frequent trips to Disney, don't buy the festival stuff. And the reason why I say that is because if you're local or you're someone who makes frequent trips to Orlando, once that festival is over, you can typically find all of that stuff at the Character Warehouse. And if you don't know what the Character Warehouse is, it's a Disney merchandise from the parks outlet store that's at the outlets on Vineland and the outlets on International. So there's 2 locations in Orlando, and it's usually filled with tons of parks merchandise that's no longer in the parks, and sometimes you can still find that merchandise in the park. So like I said, if you are local, a pass holder, or you are someone who makes frequent trips to Orlando, don't buy the festival merch at the festival. That being said, if there is something that is limited edition and you have to have it, buy it. Chances are you probably won't see it at the outlet, or if it's a pass holder specific merchandise thing, you probably won't see it at the outlet. But if it's general flower and garden, you will probably find it at the outlet store. I found my mini flower and garden shirt at the outlets probably last fall, so it took it a little bit of time to get there, but it got there. I bought it for like $3. It was a win-win. So, last tip that I have for anytime you go to a festival at Epcot is tip number 10. Tip number 10, do not do table service dining reservations if you plan on eating around the world at the booths. I made this mistake myself last year at Flower and Garden. My sister and I decided to split a bunch of things. We were like, oh yeah, we did it from like 11 until 2. Our dinner reservation was until 9. I thought I would be fine by then after we walked everything off. I wasn't. I was so stuffed. We had a reservation at Garden Grill, and I barely could eat anything because I was still so stuffed from all of the food booths. So one of the biggest tips I have for you is if you plan on eating around the world, don't make a dining reservation for that night. It's a lot of food, it's a lot of money, and I'd hate for you to eat around the world, spend all that money, and then have a dining reservation, go to it, and you can't even eat anything, and then it's a double waste of money. So again, don't do a dining reservation if you're gonna eat around the world. But vice versa, if you don't want to eat around the world, by all means, book yourself a dining reservation for that night. Like, I would. Okay guys, so to recap, my top tips for anytime you come to a festival is 1, park at the monorail. 2, make sure you make a budget. 3, plan your first stops because it can get a little hectic. Number 4, pick up your magnets if you're a pass holder or any type of pass holder merch or like gifts that they have for that festival. Number 5, make sure you stay hydrated and seek out shelter and stay cool. I can't stress this enough, guys, especially if you're drinking and eating. Please, please, please make sure you stay hydrated. Number 6, make sure you pace yourself. Don't eat too much too fast. You might get sick. Don't drink too much too fast. Again, you might get sick, so just keep on a steady pace. Don't overdo it. It'll still be there after your food settles. It's not going anywhere. Number 7, do the scavenger hunts at the festivals. They actually are pretty fun, so make sure you do that with your family. I think it's cool. Number 9, don't buy the limited edition stuff for the festivals if you're a local or if you're a pass holder and you make frequent trips, because you're gonna find them at the Character Warehouse in just a few short months. And number 9, oh wait, that was number 9. That was number 9. I can't keep up. Number 10, don't make a table service dining reservation if you plan to eat around the world. That simple, guys. All right, well, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope you guys enjoyed my top 10 tips for going to any Epcot festival at Walt Disney World. And be sure to be on the lookout for more videos. I'm gonna give you more tips, what I like to do as far as like bringing my stuff to the park, what I think my top things to do at each park, and some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they go to Disney. You would be surprised, and we're all guilty of them. So be on the lookout for future videos. I will make sure I post them up here. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Bye!